Hey everyone, hope you all are well. Today I'm showing you how to create this lovely cut crease look using some drugstore products and just one brush. I went for golds and browns today because I figured that's what most people would get wear out of, and my brush today is the Wet n Wild P15 brush. It's synthetic, making it great for both cream and powder products, so let's get started. The first thing I'm doing, as always, is priming the eye area, and to do that today I'm taking the Wet n Wild Photofocus Eyeshadow Primer. I've just taken a little on my finger and I'm patting it over the eye area, anywhere that I'll be applying shadow. To set the primer in place, I'm going in with my Essence Fixing Compact Powder. Again, I picked up a little of this on my finger. It's a translucent powder, so it's going to take away that tackiness on the eye area without adding any colour. My palette of choice today is the Soph X Revolution palette. Y'all wanted to see some more looks with this palette, so here we go. Firstly, I'm going to adapt my brush, so like you've seen me do before, I'm taking a bobble between my index finger and thumb. It's going to adapt the brush, so once it's on the ferrule, I steady the elastic with my thumb so it doesn't pop off. And with that other hand, you want to twist the elastic and use your index finger and thumb again to loop the bobble around the brush head. Once I've done it a few times, I slide it up the ferrule and onto the bristles. The further you move up the bobble, the more tapered the brush hairs will be. So now I've already made tapered blending brush / pencil brush for a more precise eyeshadow application. So I'm dipping my brush now into the shade Cup of Tea, and I'm using the brush to map out the shape of my shadow. So I'm drawing a line from my lower lash line and I'm angling it out towards the tail of my brow. Then I'm picking up some more of that shadow. This time though I'm starting along that line and I'm slowly making little back and forth motions to distribute that shadow into the crease. I'm keeping the eye open so that I can see exactly where I need to apply the shadow. And now I've taken the bobble off the brush, tapped it into some more of that shadow, and now I'm blending that colour into the crease. Now that the hairs are splayed out again, I'm able to diffuse the shadow with the hairs tightly packed together. That worked well for shadow placement, but not so much for blending. So once I've applied the shadow a couple of times and built up the intensity, then I'm popping back on the bobble to make the brush act like a pencil brush, and I'm sweeping that shadow down along the lower lash line. Like I said, this will apply the shadow quite precisely, but if you really want to blow out the shade, take off the bobble and blend back and forth underneath the eye to really fade out the colour. With that bobble back in place now, I'm picking up some of the shade Mug Cake and I'm beginning in the crease again, wiggling my brush back and forth and gradually making my way from outer corner to inner corner. And if you get some of the shadow down onto the lid by mistake, don't worry, you will have an opportunity to clean this up later, but I like to try and be as neat as possible with the crease part. It just saves me a bit of hassle. The less I have to clean up, the better. Now again I've placed down my brown eyeshadow. I want to add some more and blend it out, so I've taken off the bobble and I'm using a mix of circular motions and windshield wiper motions to add that colour into the crease. Then I'm going back in with some Cup of Tea and I'm adding it over the top of the brown just to make sure those two shadows fade nicely together. I actually decided that I wanted to make this look like a sort of half cut crease, so I tapped some of that brown just down on the very outer kind of quarter of the lid, and whatever product was left on my brush I just buffed across into the crease. Once I'm happy with that, then I use my bobble again and I'm blending that brown down along the lower lash line. Using the side of my brush now, I'm taking Smoky Bronze and I'm tapping it down on the outer portion of my eyelid. So tapping the shadow will also minimise the risk of fallout. Then I'm flipping my brush over to the other side and I'm picking up some of the shade Sparks Fly, which is a more golden tone, and I'm adding it right next to the previous shade, keeping them both to the outer third of the eye. Popping that bobble back on once again, I'm picking up some of the shade Nightmare, which is a matte black, and I'm using this to add some depth to the look. Beginning by tapping it down at the lash line and then slowly pulling it across into the crease, the deepest part of the crease because it's our deepest coloured shadow. Then I'm taking it down along the outer third of the lower lash line as well. Next, I'm taking some concealer and I'm using the shape of my brush to my advantage. It makes coating the lid area very easy to do, so I'm adding this anywhere that I don't have shadow on my lid, and then I'm going to take it right up to the crease, using my blending brush again with the bobble in place to precisely carve out the crease. And I like to take my time at this step because I most definitely don't want to mess up at this point. Once I'm pleased with how that looks, then I'm taking this matte white eyeshadow on my finger and I'm pressing it over the lid area to set that concealer in place and to brighten up the lid. Then I'm going in with my finger again and I'm picking up some of the shade Fairy Lights and I'm adding this around the tear duct of my eye to add a nice sparkle to that area. For the waterline, because I've mostly used neutral shadows, I'm going in with a brown liner as it's a little softer, and I'm just lining the waterline. For the lashes then, I'm using the Kiss Pixie ones because they're cheap and cheerful and really gorgeous on. And then to blend my own lashes in with the false ones, I'm adding some mascara, but then that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and found it helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more tutorials, and I'll chat to you all soon.